sponsored by Workit, training workplace success. Visit workit.careers for more info on how you can discover and awaken your true career path for personal fulfillment. Hello and welcome to Workit, where EQ meets IQ. I'm your host, Lori Theriel, and this episode will discuss community leadership. Today we have Joe joining us. Thanks for being part of this show.
My pleasure.
Excited to have you because you are...
I'm excited to be here.
Great. I'm looking forward to you telling your story as it exists today. You're someone who is... How old are you?
I'm 14.
14. So 14 years old, and you recently went through the Work It program.
I did.
And we uncovered, where your EQ and your IQ are within your style. And you've got a very high emotional intelligence, which means that you can read people, you can speak for people, and you're a hands-on learner. So very high on the EQ, but very knowledgeable on the IQ as well. So I like to kind of spin off of that because where EQ meets IQ, we want to help educate our listeners on the way it's done through the program. So 14 years old, next year you will be a sophomore in high school?
I'll be a sophomore next year, yeah.
Okay. Maybe you can tell me what kind of great classes you're going to be taking.
So next year, I still have to take all of my Common Core classes, so math, history, science, English. But in addition to that, I'm choosing a couple ag classes. So I'm going to take mechanics next year for ag. I plan to take natural resources as well as food science and animal science, just because I can't only take ag mechanics. So it's easier I should say, because in ag mechanics, you're so hands-on. Some of it is learning. I mean, you'll use knowledgeable math, such as acreage numbers and miles per hour and gallons per mile and all that fun stuff. But it teaches you to work with your minds and your hands at the same time. So the speed of your wire feed on your MIG welder, or how fast you're blasting a part for a tractor or for a car or whatever, so that you don't maybe burn through too much, or so that you get enough of the bad material off.
Okay, well, you're certainly feeding that IQ next year with all of that. So it sounds like you're in an agricultural program. This is going to be your second year next year,
Yep.
isn't it? Any regrets?
I have none.
Okay, so how does one get into an agricultural program?
So when you are an 8th grader in your middle school, you can go to whichever school you desire, whether it's Wamogo in Litchfield or whether it's Woodbury. You'll go to their website and you can find the application, or they'll come to your school too sometimes and you can get an application there. Basically, you just have to fill out the application. You explain why you think you'd be good for that program, and then you explain what ways your life has to do with agriculture. So they'll only accept so many people from each school, but they'll do it based on each person's individuality. Whether if you have a fish and you like to walk around the park feeding the birds, that's not really agriculture. If you've got a couple dogs, you plow fields with your friend in the summertime, and you work and you feed animals in this all year long, then that's more something that they're going to pick. So you want to make sure that you have an agricultural aspect of your life already.
Okay, so that essay is very important to getting into a program. So I understand that this ag program is part of a national program called FFA.
Yeah, FFA.
So it's a leadership program for students that are more agricultural driven. Does it cost money to go to this school if you're awarded the opportunity?
It does not, but you do have to pay your FFA dues. And that just basically allows you to be a member of the organization. It's like any good organization. You can't just be in it for free. But the rewards are a lot more profound than just that $35 due. If you participate on a CDE or on an LDE, which is a career development activity, career development event or a leadership development event, depending on where you rank, eventually, if you are the first in your district, then in your state, you'll get a free pass to go to to go to nationals in Indiana, and depending on where you're from, that's a $1,400 trip. So that $35 dues, it's worth it.
Wow. So you're almost finishing your first year in this FFA program. I can totally feel your passion for it, and you've become very knowledgeable about the program so that you can help sell it to other students that maybe have the similar passion. I know that the FFA program has a very good reputation of training students who are natural born leaders. And like I mentioned earlier, you completed the work at testing, and it clearly showed that you were born to lead, and you were also born to have the voice for people who don't have voices. So you're not afraid of the microphone that we're speaking into today, which is awesome. And you're born to serve, and you're also a natural volunteer.
I've always wanted to help people. I've always enjoyed helping people. That's part of the reason why I'm on my town's fire department, is because it gives you a chance to go and help somebody when their lives might not be the greatest right now. Whether they just had a kitchen fire or something, that's not really I just had a kitchen fire kind of moment. That's like a what's just happened to my life kind of moment. So being part of a volunteer program helps you to be able to go and make their lives a little bit easier, so that kitchen fire doesn't turn into a house fire.
Do you get to? So you're a volunteer fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're. When did you join?
I joined in October of last year.
Okay, so you're getting to experience weekly training?
I do. Every month, the first and the third Mondays of the month, we have our department meetings, and then the second and the fourth, they're just drills. But then for cadets like me, we have drills every Thursday, so it gives us knowledge on what we would do when we went to a call.
So you're almost 6 months into this training. How many years would you say it takes before you would feel comfortable taking a test for a paid position in fire?
It depends on where you're from, because a lot of departments have a lot of different styled homes. Burlington, for example, we don't have a ladder truck because we don't have any houses that are far back that are very tall that you would need a ladder truck for. But Perryville, for example, they've got a lot of long driveways that trucks might not be able to get up, or they've got a couple taller houses in that town. So they have a ladder truck so they can go out and they can shoot down on the house if they need to.
So, we're talking about Connecticut, and this podcast is going to be aired all around the world. So what Joe is explaining is, smaller towns, they don't need ladders for larger buildings. When we talk about volunteerism, it's a natural gift that you have, and you don't mind jumping in to help others. When your emotional intelligence is equally as high as some of the technical intelligence that you crave, because you were talking very technical about some of the classes that you're taking next year, that's a gift. That's a gift when you can actually relate to people's emotions as well as relate to technical problems that exist in front of you. Looking at it from a career path, because we didn't talk about where you're aligned to. So for those people out there, Joe is 14 years old, and he has identified a career path of community leadership as well as business ownership. So he's a natural at that. Is he educated yet in all of these fields? Absolutely not. But he is in a great program to give him some awesome skills. And I think the program, Work It, is actually given him the green light to continue with the learning that he's done, as well as attract the mentors in his life that are going to help get him there. So talk to me about community leadership. How do you view community leadership?
Community leadership is a great thing. It's something that can help unite not only just a town, but even a state or even a whole country. So just by participating in your town's or your state's events, that gives you the knowledge on how you can better serve others in other places. So you get known if you're known in a town, then maybe you might want to go get known to the state. Get involved in not necessarily the politics, but if you get involved with your state representatives and your state senators, you begin to know them, you begin to help them with ideas that you think the public and the community would be along with. You help them understand how everybody feels. Then that gets you known on a much bigger basis than just your town or just your school. So being involved can
definitely put your name out there
right.
as someone who's going to speak for others, right? Because remember, I introduced you as a voice for others. There's so many people out there that have opinions and are willing to roll up their sleeves, but they get a little shaky when the voice has to be activated.
Right.
So somebody like you, Joe, you're a natural at speaking for them and getting them to their goal through you. And you're going to be the one to give them credit, which is a beautiful thing. You're not going to take that credit away from them. It was their idea. You're just trying to sell it for them.
Right. And that's one of the best things about a leadership program is that, yes, your name is becoming known, but at the same time, you're saying, well, this wonderful idea for this foundation or for this grant, I'm just here to tell you about it. It's really this person's idea. Because a lot of people, when they're kind of by themselves or even just texting, a lot of people, they don't mind texting, but as soon as they get on the phone, they're all shy. They don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people are like that. They know what they want to say. They think about it. They decide that they're going to say this. But then when they get to that microphone, they stop and they freeze and they're like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have people who you know can talk for you. But at the same time, it's good to know that there are programs that can help you talk for yourself, like FFA.
Definitely. You've chosen a direction in school that not a lot of parents are educated in. FFA is almost viewed as more of a rural America type schooling, but FFA has many chapters throughout the United States, including
Correct.
Alaska and Hawaii, right? So it's a very good program for people to investigate further. And like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that you really should have a passion for agriculture and or environmental or science, so that it kind of ties in. Now, where you're going from a community leadership standpoint, is it my understanding that FFA helps guide you in understanding government?
Right.
Okay.
And it's not only that, but FFA is not as much, I don't know how to say it, but it's not just agricultural. There are many people in my school, in my ag department, they didn't really want to go to a conventional school, but because they were interested in becoming a doctor or some other technician, but not necessarily for animals, but for humans. So they joined the ag department because animals are so similar to humans that they can learn those skills on the animals. Then they already have a head start. So when they do when they do go to college to become a doctor, they already have a lot of knowledge based on their training with animals.
Good point. I never thought of that. A lot of public high schools do not give you 4 years of biology or medical training. So yeah, it's a good point that you're bringing up. I never thought of that. And it gives you a head start, like you said.
Right.
So talk to me about how you are going to go through the rest of your high school career. How do you see yourself going through the rest of your high school career, trying to make an impact in your community /state?
So at the beginning of the year, we had elections for officer positions for our chapter. And I said, I really want to be involved. I really want to be able to help other people. But at the same time, I want to help make their opinions known. So what I did was I ran for the FFA freshman chairman.
Okay.
And that's kind of like a class president, except it's only for the FFA, for the kids, the freshmen that are in FFA. So while there were a lot of people that did want to get involved, a lot of it was just about what you want to do there. When we were asked to stand up and just say why we wanted to be the chairman, a lot of people, they were just saying how they wanted to get to know more people and they want to be more involved. But what I said to myself is, how can I make my speech or my little talk more intriguing? So what I had decided that I wanted to say was, it's not just about me being on the officer team or me being the leader of you guys. It's about you guys telling me what you want and what you need. So it's a equal partnership here. I'm not higher than you guys. You guys aren't higher than me. We're all on the same level. We all want the same things. And so that's, I think, what helped me get elected.
You got elected?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
At the same time, one of my LDEs was creed speaking. So as somebody in this LDE, it's our job to memorize the creed of the FFA. It's 5 paragraphs. I'm not going to say the whole thing. But it's basically that I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words but of deeds. And then there's a lot of
pretty
other
much
parts.
defines you, I think.
It defines the FFA and what it stands for. And so our school, the freshmen in our school, had a competition for those who wanted to, obviously. 2 people are allowed to go to districts, which is all the other ag schools in our area. So that would be Nonawag, Woodbury, just a bunch of other schools. So I participated in that, and me and one of my other friends, Courtney, were chosen to go to districts. So we've had a lot of people from our chapter go to districts and to states and be second place in states, or third place in states, but unfortunately we haven't had anybody in first place yet. So that's going to be exciting. I'd kind of like to be the first in our chapter.
Well, it sounds like you're very driven for that.
Yeah.
I think they've chosen the right guy. And at 14 years old, you've had leadership skills before 14. So those leadership skills naturally were not formed because you joined the FFA. It's just being enhanced because you're in the FFA program. Right. So taking those leadership skills and being able to be the voice of the students in your school is a huge honor. And I think you're taking it very seriously. And I think it's going to perfectly align with where you're going after high school. So let's kind of bring you into the future, or you help me take you into the future.
Okay.
So you also have passion for business correct?
Right.
So far we know that you have a passion for serving the public through volunteering, through understanding people's issues, but you also have a passion for creating a business that gives back.
Right. I don't know. I guess I've always been kind of like a businessman. I've always tried to figure out how I could make money and help people at the same time. Mm-hmm. So for me, being at such a young age, it's hard for me because there are so many factors against me that it makes it hard for me to be able to do something, because you've got to
are you talking about age?
Age, correct. You have to be 18, I think, to be able to legally own a business. Mm-hmm. So I can't legally own a business. I can't put posters up because I'm not of legal age for that business. I can't be a business known with the town, I guess, because it's not technically a business. Another thing that's hard for me being 14 is that with a business comes travel and expanding your horizons. So it's tough for me because I don't want to have to rely on my parents to take me to this town or to take me to this so I could talk about it. Mm. So there are just so many factors lined up against me at this point. But thankfully, in the future, they're all just going to evaporate and I'll just have a straight path.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a good plan. And, speaking of parents, parents can do a lot of great things to help and support their kids. Obviously, they've supported you in your decision to go to a different high school, and going to that different high school involves a little bit more travel because it's further away. Right. From students that might be listening to this podcast and parents, what kind of sacrifice do you feel parents make in order to help children that are born leaders like yourself really grow during their high school career versus waiting until after high school? What kind of sacrifices might be involved, and what have your parents done for you to help, continue to build your leadership skills? Well,
my mom works in East Hartford, so being in a school that's on the complete other side of our home, she has to go from East Hartford to Litchfield, which is about 25 miles. 30 miles maybe, in an hour and a half, or in an hour and a half. And it's harder for her because she'll have to leave work early. At the same time, my father, he's trying to start a museum, an automotive museum. So he's in the southern part of the state 3 days out of 5. So I'm being at school after school all days of the week. It's harder because he has to leave his meetings, or he has to schedule his meetings earlier so that he can come back up to pick me up to bring me home, because I can't do that myself.
So that's definitely, transportation is definitely a sacrifice. Now, as you start to, get more of a network of friends, is that getting easier at the end of your freshman year to where you can maybe ask for rides?
It is, because as I'm beginning to learn more about people and know more people, I'm realizing, well, this person has their license, they can drive me, and they live in the town next to mine, or they live in my town. So I can go, hey, so-and-so, would you mind giving me a ride to this rest stop or to this parking lot so that my father doesn't have to come all the way out here? Or a lot of times, hey, so-and-so, do you mind if I just tag along with you? Because you live, not necessarily you live, but more of the fact that I'd have to go home and then come back to school, as to where, can I tag along with you? I can go out riding with them or something.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So problem-solving skills are definitely being part of your life at a young age, because you have to do a lot of logistics in your head to make sure that you can still stay after school for some of these programs, as well as build your skill. Because as an elected official now, you will have more responsibility. You are not afraid to use your voice, which is a beautiful thing. So asking people for help is something that you're comfortable with. Other kids are maybe more shy, and obviously they probably shouldn't be elected officials because they don't want to use the microphone like you would. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of great things to build up your network of people and your skill, and the program definitely enhances it. Tell me more about this new role that you're going to be taking on, that you just got elected for. What are the responsibilities of this?
So we have a meeting every month. It's our chapter meeting. So all the kids that are in ag, they'll go to the meeting place, whether it's the auditorium for one school or whether it's the cafeteria for another school. For our school, we all meet in the auditorium. And it's my job to prepare, not necessarily prepare, but to let other kids know what the freshmen are doing in their committees. So we have a healthy lifestyle committee. We have a leadership committee, which is the committee that I'm part of. We have all these different committees. And as the chairman, it's my job to take the reports that those committees give me, and I report it to the entire school, the entire FFA, of what the freshmen have been doing, so that they know, oh, you know what? I think I've got this thing that they'll be able to use really well. I'll go talk to them about it and see if they want to use it. So it gets everybody knowledgeable about what we're doing.
So what happens if your team is not doing as much as what you want them to do? Are you in a position where you have to motivate and light a fire?
Yeah, there's not a lot of ways that I can do that, but I can always go and help, say, so you're having a hard time figuring out what you want to do for this or what events you want to put on. Think about what people in our chapter like. So we know that they like animals. We know that they like events that everybody can come to. So you think about what the FFA wants or what our chapter wants, and then you think about the things that maybe the public wants. And you find a way to take that and put it into one. And then that could be an event or something. We have a doggy daycare and a woof wash at our school, so the teachers can bring their dogs in, and the vet science kids, they'll watch the dogs. Or the woof wash is basically anybody can come after school, and the kids will wash the dogs for them. So there's a lot of different ways that the chapter can make money and help people.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect mix for your personality. I want to thank you for educating our audience on different options for high schools for kids. FFA program is available nationwide, and it takes as an essay with passion and a willingness to make some great changes and differences in the world of agriculture and environment. Right. So again, I want to thank you, and If there was any advice that you could give parents out there, and I want you to talk to parents about supporting kids that are born, a little bit bossier than other kids, right? What advice would you give parents?
Obviously, I'm kind of just speaking from what I would think. I've never been a parent. I hope to not have to be a parent in the near future.
But you'll make an amazing one. So.
Well, yeah, someday. You just got to get behind your child and support them in whatever they decide to do. Whether they want to be a leader or whether they just decide they want to kind of sit back and be in the background, you have to support them. And while there are some times where maybe you want to push them to do a little bit more, get them to try something. And if they don't necessarily like it, then a lot of times you're just going to have to accept that because their tastes change. So what they might not like now, they might like in a year or two, or what they might like now, they might not necessarily have a passion for in a couple of years.
Okay, so let me spin off of that. So a lot of times passions are squashed by either parents or a teacher that maybe didn't really enjoy his or her subject. So having, a passion for something and then having a teacher that doesn't have the passion for it can oftentimes, silence a dream.
Right. Or even having a teacher that doesn't think you can. One of the greatest stories, a young boy, he was kicked out of 3 high schools because what he thought should be were so crazy that they thought he was insane. That boy was Albert Einstein. So you hear that name and you're like, wait, this dude was the smartest guy I've heard of. How could he be kicked out of 3 high schools? Well, his thoughts were so out there that they thought he was crazy. Another insane story was a group of kids in England who wanted to start their own band. Their music, nobody liked it. I shouldn't say nobody liked it. People liked it, but they didn't think it was appropriate for that era. So the teachers that they had, they said, you'll never make it. It's such a hard industry. That group of kids, they're known all around the world today, the Beatles. So you hear these names and then you find out the backstories and it blows your mind because you don't realize how hard of a beginning they had.
Right. The visionaries of the world definitely have their own struggles because they're way in the future and the world is just not caught up to them yet. So, those 2 groups that you just mentioned are definitely groups that end up, being called failures. And truly they're not. There's no such thing really as a failure because you just learn from, everyday experiences. So Joe, I want to thank you very much for being my guest today.
I'd like to thank you for having me.
And I hope that this episode has inspired a lot of parents and children to really take a look at all high school options. There's so many of them out there. And for Joe, who's a natural born leader, FFA program is truly an amazing gift that's available to him. And his parents, obviously have supported him, especially in the transportation side, because it's a little bit further away from home than the public high schools, but also supporting the emotional side of a leader, because leaders tend to be a little bit more bossy as young adults than other students. So the good news is you're going to make a strong leader in your community. You're not afraid to voice your opinion. And I am looking forward to following your journey and having you back here as a guest in the future. And, next week I'm going to be talking with Karen Thomas, and she is an etiquette expert here in the state of Connecticut. And she's going to be sharing with us a lot of great tips for students to learn from and applying for jobs and keeping their jobs and just improving networking skills. So be sure to join us next Monday for more career journeys coming from all ages and passions on Mile High Radio or workit.careers. And again, visit the website workit.careers for lots of great information.